This is the Okayest Hunter podcast. Never pass on shooter bucks, because that's just meat in the freezer. It's your tag, you hunt how you want. This is Okayest Hunter.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Okayest Hunter podcast. I almost fucked that up. I don't even know what podcast I'm recording for. I'm your host, Eric Clark, and today is Tuesday, October 5th. So we're, approaching that October lull that everyone likes to talk about that I don't believe in. Shout out to Backwoods Grind Coffee. Use code OHP for 10% off. Go to backwoodsgrind.com. Scoop yourself up a bag, scoop some of that in your coffee maker, and have energy for the entire day. Shout out to Drop Time Spirits. Those guys keep us we're going dry here in studio, which is great. Always drinking some bourbon of theirs. And a huge shout out to Spartan Forge, our presenting sponsor. Go to spartanforge.ai. You can use code OHP for 25% off. And they did really well with their launch. It took a long time because Apple is Apple, which I've communicated to the folks that listen to the show. But if you're on the app and the platform, you can recognize and see the difference quite literally in their maps. They're visually far and away from what you're going to see elsewhere included in the subscription that you'll pay for. But they had a really good response out of the gate. So in about 2 to 3 weeks, you're going to see an iteration based on their beta testing and all of the folks sniffing out all the bugs that are now using it. So I'm on there, I don't know, a lot right now because I'm doing a shit ton of e-scouting and hunting new properties. I've already hunted twice this season and hunted 2 or 3 different properties already, so it's been good. We have a guest with us today. Let me unmute you, Jarrod. Jarrod, mother effing Norwood.
What up, man?
Happy to have you. So Greg and Derek ditched me again this week to go hunt, which is, one of the few acceptable excuses for not co-hosting a podcast that's about deer hunting is to go hunting.
Yep, you gotta have that. You can't blame them. You really can't. I have to say though, man, you've been hunting twice, man. Those rookie numbers, you got to bump those up, bro.
3 times. 3 times.
Oh,
2 weeks. That's okay. That's good for just having a newborn baby.
Very true. Very true. I'll give you that. I'd forgotten about that, and yeah, it's hard to get out there. My kids are old now. I had kids young, so I get to go out there a little bit more.
Nico just commented that he had 4 sets and on deer every set. I don't know if he said set or set. Nico, that's awesome. Good to see. Right. What were you gonna say, Jarrod?
I said you got to interview him. I've had several sits where I didn't see a thing. I didn't even see a mammal. A couple of sits.
Well, I know you killed one. We shared that pack. Yeah. Your e-bag full of a deer carcass, and people freaking went nuts over that, man. It's like 800 likes or something.
What's so funny about that, if we can go into that, is I have a whoop ass pack for packing deer out, but I'd shot that deer that morning and made a okayest shot on it, and he was trying to bed down right underneath my tree, and every year we start September 1st. You can go to the urban hunts. So this deer comes in. It was the first time I sat this new place. I had this deer on camera. I mean, he's no monster, but I take him. But he's trying to bed down with me, and I draw back, and aim low. It's top territory. I didn't. I put it right on the front of his shoulder, and I shot, and I hit back. So he off, and it was a bad shot. So I saw him go down to this little creek, and I was actually coming back in with the OC bag that was full of corn. That's how I put my corn out, because you can bait here.
Freaking truck full of corn that almost broke your shocks.
There you go. So yeah, exactly. So I take the corn down there, and I was like, well, this deer's been shot for 8 hours. He's got to be down. So I walk over to the creek, bag on my back. I've got my bow, my releases in my pocket. I've got a cover on my sight. I look up, and the deer is standing in the creek, 30 yards from me, looking the other direction, drinking water, and he's in a bad way. Anyway, so I had to shoot him again. And so then I already had the sea bag down there, and I had to hike up a damn mountain after that. So I was like, well, hey, he's getting cut, quartered, and put in the bag, man. and that's the rest of the story.
It's like unintentional use of that bag turned out to be
Mm-hmm.
pretty great. A lot of people love that, and I have a sea bag here. I was like, shit, that's a really good idea.
I actually owe one to one of your listeners too, and I regrettably have not sent that yet, but I've got his address, and because I've got like 5 of those.
Oh my God.
My family was in the military. I want one. I'll send you one. They're great. They're great for those two things. I put a bucket full of corn. I can walk in, put the corn out, hide the sea bag, cover up the bucket, be out of there, and that way I'm not driving a 4-wheeler in there, throwing, doing all that crap. So
yeah, that's great. Hey, by the way, for the listeners that are starting to tune in on live stream and the folks that'll hear this in podcast land, this is Jarrod Norwood, a good friend of mine out of Arkansas. So Jarrod being down in Arkansas, his cold fronts are a little bit different than ours here in Wisconsin. We were just talking about temps before we got started. So I was saying, cold front's going to move through next Monday. It's going to go from, 80 to 60 degrees or, high 70s to 60 degrees or so. And he's like, yeah, we're having a cold front right now. What are your temperatures after your cold front?
77's a high tomorrow with a lot of rain coming through tomorrow. Right now it's 82, and this weekend, Saturday, 90 degrees, low of 67 with 100% humidity.
Gross, dude. I see. That is a very different style hunt. So I thought it'd be a fun topic with you because just the climate is so different that I think you actually have to do things quite a bit different than we would up here. I went hunting Friday night and it was like 79 degrees. And had I had a shot on a doe, it was a doe fawn. I was kind of like, man, late in the day, it's super hot. If I shoot this thing, I don't have a butcher to take it to right now. I'm going to have to shove ice in the cavity. It's going to be a nightmare. There's mosquitoes everywhere. I got bit on my hand. Still, it's like swollen, man. I still have like bites all over my hand from holding my bow. And it was freaking miserable, dude. I'm just mad at Mother Nature that the temperatures aren't dropping. I don't know how you deal with that. Like as just that's the consistent.
That's the consistent. So when I killed the 2 deer earlier this season, it was 93 degrees both days. When I shot both of them, 93. It was 90. It was 80 something when I shot the buck. 90 something when I actually found him, shot him again. And then when I shot the doe. And I donated all those to Arkansas Feeding the Hungry. They make snack sticks out of them, give them to schools for kids that don't really have a meal at home, things like that. So it's an awesome program. Shout out to them. But I shot that doe an hour and a half before daylight ended, so that evening. When I got to her, she was already swollen, like she'd already started to spoil. That's 2 hours. She was covered in flies. I mean, it was bad. But yeah, we don't have our first frost until, if we're lucky, late October, but usually it's mid-November. And even during our rut, which is the second week, peak rut's about the second week of November. It's when rifle season starts here. You're apt to have 30-degree swing in the day. So you'll start off maybe in the 40s if you're lucky, and then 70, 80 degrees sometimes. We've popped off 90 degrees in November. There's usually several days in December that are pushing the 70s. So when you think about that from a hunting aspect, with that big shift, thermals come into play. Your wind is never. I have 6 wind apps, and none of them are ever. I was in a tree the other day, and I shit you not, I was dropping milkweed, and I had a wind hit me in the face. Wind coming off the lake hit me in the back, and then the thermal was pulling down this little drain that I was in. So my milkweed was literally just spiraling up in the air and then dropping down and going every which way. So scent control in that kind of heat, it's out the door, man. You can't be a scent control Nazi here. I've said this before. I'm a big fan of Eberhardt, but it ain't happening. So especially
you'd be sweating your balls off wearing any of that stuff to like hold it. I don't know what they have, if they have like early season lightweight gear or something, but yeah, when you're sweating buckets like that and the wind's doing all sorts of wacky shit, how are you controlling any of that stuff? So what do you do, man? Like, cause the deer know if you're in the area, but you're a killer. Look at your wall. You got your wall's littered with bucks, and you just killed that you threw in your sea bag. So you're doing something right out there.
Like this one right above me over here, it was like directly behind me. That was the earliest mature buck that I ever killed. And I hunt Arkansas too. So these are all Like every buck that I have up here was at least 4.5 years old. Now, not now. I will smoke a 6-point quicker than anybody on this podcast. So don't. These are just the ones that made the wall. But I think it was 86 degrees when I shot him. He was my target buck that year. We didn't have a lot on the farm, and he come in eating acorns, and he was directly downwind of me, and where my thermals were running. It really is. I'd rather be lucky than good any day. I try to set up for the best wind. I try to play the thermals in my advantage. I set up on a lot of drains, a lot of creeks, and things of that, because that's another thing I'll get into when it get into like the landscape of here in Arkansas, and then I've hunted Texas, Mississippi, and some other places, and it's kind of all the same. But when you think about that, you set up for the best way you possibly can, but you just got to understand that it's gonna shift on you. I rarely have a sit that I don't at least get 1 or 2 deer that win me. And you got to play that into. A lot of people like to hunt feed trees here. Richard Fott's a big feed tree hunter here, and he's on a lot of podcasts.
Feed tree, like what? Like a thing that just spits out food for him or something like that? Was that what you mean?
So a feed tree here is going to be your oaks, red oaks, white oaks, water oaks, whatever oak tree. That's generally the highest protein that you're going to get. And where I hunt in Southwest Arkansas. Mostly that's where my big deer lease is. Now I go into Eastern Arkansas. That's where all the ag is here. We're the rice capital of the world. I mean, we're known for ducks. So that's where everybody and their mama goes to shoot ducks every year.
Yeah, Oak Tree Dream just said, yeah, temps were great for a duck opener, which I know they're in Wisconsin. They're in like the northern part of Wisconsin or mid-state Mauston area.
Yeah. So and then the duck season starts a week after deer season rifle opens here. So it's usually cooler then. But even then, duck hunters hate it when it gets real hot around here too, because then the bugs come into play. You'll have a billion mosquitoes and black flies on you. But with the whole wind thing, I mean, it really is. This is a turkey shoot. You set up for your best case scenario, but then you got to understand that it's probably going to shift on you at least twice, especially when the sun goes down, the temperature starts dropping, your thermals really come into play. So thermals matter a lot here, even more so than you're doing. Because even though you have on your app says 4 mile an hour wind northwest, really not enough wind to negate the thermals. So if your thermals pulling downhill in the evening and you've got a wind that's right for you, it's your thermal still going to get you. That's where the deer are coming in. So you got to think about that. So you really have to consider the wind here. If you're going in just willy-nilly hunting over a feed tree or something like that, you're going to have 6 to 8 does in front of you, because we have a high doe to buck ratio. So you'll see 8 to 10 does before you see the first spike. And that's a lot of sets of eyes on you when you're trying to draw a bow, when you're trying to move around in a stand or anything like that. So I don't hunt a lot of feed trees. I hunt near the feed trees, and I do a bed to feed hunt. So I'm usually closer to what we call what our thickets are, which are probably vastly different than y'all's as well. But yeah, I would say the biggest difference. I mean, deer everywhere. Deer do deer shit here. Deer do deer shit up there. They do deer shit in Mexico. They eat, they breed, and they shit and they pee. That's what they do. But hunting them, I've always said, and I think everybody says this where they hunt. They're like, this is the hardest state to hunt in the whole union. And I would say that Arkansas is one of the hardest places to hunt whitetail deer, especially mature whitetail deer here. Now you can bust a good 2.5-year-old, which again I'm all about. But it's definitely something that you have to consider. And then when you talk about ultralight gear, saddle hunt, I jumped on the saddle bandwagon real early. That's not because I thought that it was the most awesome thing in the whole wide world. That's just out of necessity. When you're hauling a Summit tree stand that weighs 23 pounds, a pack, and it's 80 degrees outside, buddy, you losing weight. I mean, I don't know how people. I don't know how people do it if they're overweight or they don't work out. I mean, it's rough.
Yeah, what are you running for your saddle platform for 2 seconds? Because you've been at it for a little bit.
I've got the tethered Phantom, and then I do the tethered Predator platform. I've got a rappelling harness, so I've got the Mad Rock rappelling, and I do a 2-stick method. And I'm going to do a video on the 2-stick method because I haven't seen a video on the 2-stick method, but a lot of people do the 1-step method. I do the 2-step method. It's I've got 2 of the, I modified some hard sticks with cam cleat for not Schaefer cam, because there's a lot of Schaefer cams. I did the kinetic cam cleat, and then the Eastern Outdoors, I think, makes the Amsteel. I've got an Amsteel 8er, and so I set my first stick up about 8 foot or 7 foot, 8 foot to the top, as high as I can get it. Climb up to that. I set my second stick up as high as I can get it, so I get another 6, 7 feet out of that. So then I start what's called the one sticking method, where I hook up my tether or my rappel line, dangle off the tree, move my stick up one, strap it back down, climb up that stick, and then I set my platform. Usually that's about 20 feet. Now, that's another thing about here. When do y'all start losing y'all's leaves around there? When the green dies out. Now?
Yeah, they're changing colors and dropping. My yard's starting to fill up already, which is a whole different story for me. But yeah, I think between now and the next couple weeks, I imagine when that cold front rips through, I don't know if that's gonna make a difference. I think it's more of a like lighting. We're just losing daylight.
So we're green. We're green all the way through November. I mean, you've got right now the ag crops starting to dry up a little bit. They're all soybeans right now, moving into acorns and things like that. But you can almost not get up to 20, 25 feet. If you even if you wanted to, you could get up that high, but then you've got the canopy. The canopy's still there. All those leaves are still there. We're not dropping leaves till probably end of November. A lot of times that'll hold on, and that really also affects the way you got to hunt too, because browse and mass mass crop, I consider that acorns and things. I may have those confused. Y'all are welcome to fact check me, but browse is like your green plants that deer are going to eat. They're still on that. There's still so much of that. It's hard to find a defined feeding pattern right now, because they're mixed between that and the oaks that are dropped early right now. And our oaks are just now dropping, and we, a lot of places I hunt, we kind of got a subpar crop this year, which we had a subpar crop last year in my neck of the woods. But where I hunt in Eastern Arkansas, they're loaded. I mean, I went out there Sunday morning, and I mean, it's like a yellow brick road of acorns through there. But so that's another big factor. I mean, it is thick and green in most everywhere. So we'll just jump in that. We've kind of covered weather. It's hot as hell. But the topography of the South is, I mean, you're talking, especially here in Arkansas, it's a lot of timber company land. So a lot of pine trees with your riparian areas that, they have to keep so many oaks on the creek so that they don't wash out the pine trees and things of that nature. So that's the only food source on a lot of these tracks. And then when you talk about transitional lines, because deer are transitional animals, you have a ton of transitions here, because you can go from a briar thicket to an open pine thicket, or to an open pine area, then right into an oak flat. And so there's 3 different transition areas that you have right there. And the deer could be feeding on a variety of different things, given the time of year for that. But all that said, I mean, we're gonna stay green with browse through November. So you can't get too high in the tree. A lot of your shots, especially in your bow hunting, our archery season is pretty long. September 1st, if you're archery, if you're in the urban hunts, and I think the regular season started the 25th here, and it goes all the way to February 26th. So, or 28th. I think it's 26th, but it's February. And so when you look at the topography, we've got mountains here. This is one thing I love about Arkansas. There's 3 million acres of public land here that you can hunt. You got the Ouachita Mountains, the Boston Mountains, which are on the northeast side and north central side. So here in Little Rock, where I live, I hunt what's the Ouachita Mountains on one side. I can be in the mountains 10 minutes from my house, or the river bottoms 10 minutes from my house. So I've got my pick of the litter for whatever topography I want to hunt and where the deer are. The only real ag, like I said, is in the eastern part, where that's closer to the Mississippi River. The Mississippi River runs up one side of Arkansas, and so basically Eastern Arkansas looks just like Mississippi. Northeast Arkansas looks just like Missouri. Northwest Arkansas, mountains, pretty, good, decent weather. And then Southwest Arkansas, where I call home, is pretty much East Texas. So same stuff. Tons of pine trees, tons of potlatch. Deltic owns most every bit of it. They'll raise your lease dues every year. Won't tell you if they're going to cut it down or not. Love those guys. If you can't tell, but yeah, when you're talking about a deer here, that's another thing. How big would you say the average deer? Like, do you have a lot of 200-pounders out there? Like y'all kill any 200-pound
So
deer?
I spent some time in Virginia when I was young, and I saw guys hunting out there, and as far as really super into hunting, I'd hunted, but I wasn't like I am today these days. And they're dragging out deer, big racks. But I was like, that's the fucking deer, So I had really only been exposed to Wisconsin bucks and deer, and they're big. So yeah, 200-pounders for sure. And anybody in the comments, feel free to weigh in. And obviously, we're always going to accept calls. So if you want to call into the show, go nuts. Be happy to jam with you on this stuff. But big deer, and some large racks depending on what you're after, but definitely the bigger body stuff. So I'd imagine you're probably looking at what I was seeing in Virginia, which are just smaller bodied animals.
Absolutely. So I mean this a mature buck here to hit the 200-pound mark. That's something. You killed a monster. You killed a 200-pound deer. I mean,
Might as well be a moose out there, huh?
might as well be. I mean, we equate them to a lot, especially in my Southwest Arkansas leases. They're like Texas deer. Their racks look huge. They may only be 130-inch deer, but they look ginormous because their
Small
bodies.
frame, big rack.
Yeah, I mean they are, but I mean all they're eating is acorns if we have them, and then they grass and browse. They're not.
Are you saying acorn or acorn? There's the difference
Hey,
between
look,
the South
man,
and North right there.
acorns.
Acorn, corn.
That's what we call them here, acorns.
But in Wisconsin, we're probably really along on the acorn,
Yeah.
acorn.
So acorns. My wife gets on. I married a proper woman, a yuppie lady.
Yeah, where's she from? Is she
Tennessee.
from? Oh, Tennessee. Okay.
She's from
Oh, God.
Tennessee.
You used the pickup line on her, didn't you? She's the only 10 you see, huh?
That is exactly what I used. Actually, I can't even remember. I was a manager at a gym when I met my wife, and I remember the first conversation we had. She asked me for 20 minutes in the tanning bed. I'm wearing a beanie, a hat, a sleeveless shirt, and I like flexed up and like set the tanning bed for 20 minutes. I was like, "You're in bed 8, married for 10 years." So,
that was it.
that was it, man. Met her at a bar after that. But yeah, I mean, our deer small. And so when you think about that from bow hunting, because I'm primarily a bow hunter, you got a whole lot smaller area to hit. I've missed deer by inches, just because, when a Glendale buck is, the full rut Glendale buck that you get to shoot at is 10 times bigger than some of our mature deer. So
what's a Glendale buck? You're saying the shit. I got to make sure I'm checking these terms so I know what we're talking about.
Glendale targets, like the Glendale, okay. Like the little target buck. You can get them in. You can get the cheap one that's like the pre-rut. It's smaller. That's the one that most of us have. It's like $89 with a $10 rebate from the old Bass Pro Shop.
That's probably accurate to the size. Like it's set, huh?
Oh yeah. It's but yeah, they're smaller animals here. They just don't have the food to sustain, and then they don't have to get our winters aren't as harsh.
Yeah.
So they really don't pack on the pounds. And when you talk about a cold front there, I hear a lot of the people hunt the edge of cold fronts there, and then the day after, and our deer movement slows. Like if we get a real cold front come through, our deer are cold. Like they're bedded up in a thicket somewhere trying to stay warm. Like they're not moving as much.
Not moving to get warm. I never would have considered that, dude. That's interesting. That's like the people that I know from, warmer states, like yourself included. It gets a certain temperature, like, man, I'm putting on a hoodie. It is cold. I'm like, bro, I'm taking my hoodie off at that temperature because we're coming out of that stuff. It's like you're moving opposite directions, so you're doing different behaviors.
Well, and I will say this: if you've never known cold till like you've had like one of those real cold, like 20 degrees here with a north wind and 100% humidity, where it's just like your bones are cold. Like you can't. There's nothing you can do to get warm. Like it's a difference between like a dry heat and a wet heat. Like here, you can cut the air with a butter knife. But in like Reno, it's 112 degrees and you can't tell because your sweat's evaporating. Here, there's parts of your body you didn't even know you had that are sweating. You didn't even know you had sweat glands there, and that's sweating like on your kneecap. Have you ever had kneecap sweat? I have. It's
I have.
ridiculous.
Gotta get some deodorant for that knee.
Yeah. Well, kneecaps are sweaty. Yeah. So it's definitely a different thing. And then, so when I talk about topography too, when you talk about hunting deer and hunting deer like a bed to food pattern, like I said before, our deer can generally bed down pretty much anywhere. It's so thick here. We have so much undergrowth, especially if they've thinned out. Like you have a clear cut where they've just thinned it. They left some of the mature trees, and then two or three seasons get on, that undergrowth gets real thick. I mean, a deer could literally lay down right beside where it feeds, and that could be its bedding area. I mean, where you have like the big ag places that I don't know if y'all have a lot of ag, but I know y'all have a lot of swamps and things like that where where a deer is going to be laying and where he's going to eat. Here, you really got to put the only thing that kills big deer here is boot leather and time. I mean, you just really got to get out there and bounce around and see what they're doing. And it shifts so much here. I tracked and Bill with Spartan. I'm real interested in a lot of that stuff because here in the South, like I have a 6-7 year old buck. He may even be 8. Big drop tine. He's a 160-inch deer. For here, that's like a white buffalo. Like, I mean, we just don't have much of those. And so I got with all the neighboring clubs, went and had, broke bread with them and told them about the deer. And they're like, yeah, we've been seeing him. So I took game cam pictures, like game cam photos, like where I knew it was him. And then I plotted his range out. And at 6 to 8 years old, you would think, the traditional knowledge is a deer's core area shrinks as it gets older. This deer had a 5-mile radius that it went. And this was before the rut. This was just him going by a corn feeder in one place, coming back on us, and there's 5 miles.
How did you figure that out, by the way? That's pretty impressive because, like, you see some studies right now coming from the MSU Deer Lab podcast does some of that stuff where they've been showing home range from collared data.
Yep.
Were you just setting trail cams to see that stuff or what?
So we had trail cam photos of them. The neighboring clubs, everybody has a hunting club. In the South, it's all hunting clubs. So you've got, like, I'm in Old Sad Daddy Deer Camp. That's our hunting club. And we lease about 1,700 acres. And of that, on this side of the road where this deer was, it was like we got like 160 acres. And then we're surrounded by all these other timber leases. And, all the guys have a camp where, after the hunt, you see more, bush light cans than anything else in the world. But, you just go around, start talking about deer, and usually they'll kind of, they'll crack out the old phone. And, game cams definitely changed the game for a lot of us here because, we always thought, I always hunted. I always thought if a deer, you got a picture of a deer, you knew a deer was there, that's where he was going to be. He was probably coming out of this field, and that's not the case. And it's different. Each deer, I've some of these deer that I have on the wall, they were homebodies. They never got off our lease. I mean, for this one or this 10 point right here, that's high and tight. A 5.5-year-old deer that I passed on 3 or 4 times. So he never left his core area, which was as tight as could be. He stayed in one little thicket. He chased does in that thicket. He did everything in that thicket. I saw him run with every other mature deer in the place that we were hunting until he got of age that I couldn't pass him anymore. And he never really blew up, and he just stayed a nice, high, tight 10. But and then corresponding with the other deer in that area that ran with him, that one with the drop time, 5-mile radius on him, but he has to. I mean, if you think the timber companies plant pine trees, so when there's some oak flats here and there, but if those oak flats aren't producing, he's got to move to eat. He's got to feed the beast. So he was just moving around to different corn feeders, different oak flats, and he's chasing does too. But he really he just moved to eat. to sustain himself. He's just a big deer. Somebody I think gut shot him, couldn't find him, and never found him. So
Oh God.
we hadn't got pictures of him in 2 years. The guy told me, he was like, "Well, I mean, he come across my lane, so I threw the gun up, pow, man! I think I hit him in the guts." Great.
Good, cool story, bro. Thanks for killing
Yeah,
that.
yeah,
Not.
awesome.
God damn, that's the brown. It's down right there.
So another thing I would tell you, and yeah, do y'all have a high capacity for water moccasins or I call them cotton-headed rattle moccasins down here?
We do have, depends on what part of the state you're in. We have rattlesnakes. I know specifically a lot of folks that do like rock climbing. There's one destination here in the state that I'm aware of, like Devil's Lake in Wisconsin Dells, and there'll be some timber rattlers there. I don't know much about timber rattlers, but I think they're venomous. If I were to Google it, I might find that. And
Yes.
yeah,
Oh,
like I'm not fucking around with one of those. Have I ever seen anything like that in my life? Absolutely not. No, I'm not rock climbing Devil's Lake for starters, but I'm certainly not hunting an area that has those. Now, that being said, there are some areas that I hunt that have a lot of what's called like bluffs and rock formations that are like steep rock faces and edges. So there could be some things in there, but no one's hunting that. You're not like taking a carabiner and like saddling up to go rock climbing and all that stuff. So maybe be a little careful, but I don't know. We don't have shit here like that.
so
I don't know.
there's
I'm
the
just trying to
contrast.
this is where if
On
Greg were here on the show, he'd start spitting out species and things like that. Maybe there's like a spider we should be concerned about, but not like a tarantula. We don't have scorpions. There's not anything super venomous around here. We're pretty safe up here in the Midwest.
So we have
Just
everything.
cottonmouth.
We have the other day. So I didn't kill, but maybe some of them lost their lives due to natural causes this weekend because it's illegal to kill water moccasins here, snakes, I think. Anyway, I saw 4 water moccasins when I was hunting on Sunday morning, and then I got to my stand here in Little Rock in the mountains and put my bow on the ground and went to go pick it back up to hook it to my bow rope, and there was a baby cottonmouth like right there with its mouth open, just ready to take out my left pinky finger. And I mean, so I got close. Again, and I've been bitten by like water snakes, drunk trying to catch snakes to impress girls, but never by a venomous snake. But we've got them all: rattlesnakes, water moccasins, cottonmouths, and they're, I mean, turkey season in Arkansas, and then early season bow season. You have got to watch out for those. I mean, though we call no shoulders. You're wearing a headlamp in, and you're watching your way out, especially if you hunt any of the river bottoms. I don't mess with rattlesnakes too much because they at least warn you before they bite you. I figure that's a pretty good snake. He's gonna rattle at you, be like, "Hey, bruh, this is my spot. Your spot's over there," and I think that's great. So they usually get a pass from me. Now we do eat them down here, and we like a good little rattlesnake. They're really good to eat. I don't know if you've ever had them, but they're
Oh man, how
phenomenal.
you cooking that? You smoking that up on the Traeger? What are you doing with the rattlesnake? I have no clue.
Lots
No
of ways to
trip.
cook rattlesnake, man. I'm not gonna Bubba Gump you here and tell you there's rattlesnake etouffee, rattlesnake sandwiches, fried rattlesnake. I mean there's a lot of ways to prepare rattlesnake, but it's pretty good. I would say it's high up there on my list of snakes that
You
I eat.
ordering rattlesnake
The
at a
only one.
restaurant? Given the opportunity, or are you gonna order some roast duck and some
No.
wine?
So illegal to sell wild game here.
No, I'm just saying, if it were on a menu, what are you putting it in the pecking order?
Oh, I'm putting it up there. I mean, I see it as an appetizer, like rattlesnake bites, like at the Texas Roadhouse. Do y'all have Texas Roadhouse up there?
Great.
It's a highly sought after establishment here. That's high class
We get
eating
Texas
for a
Roadhouse
good
up here. My son's allergic to peanuts, so we can't go there because that would be like a fucking death trap. They
Yeah,
do the
that's not
peanuts here,
good.
right? There's peanuts all over the place.
So bugs, mosquitoes, biting gnats. We keep Thermacell in business down here. I was rocking the Thermacell. I literally had a mosquito land on my Thermacell, light a cigarette off of it, and then tell me it's about to suck me dry. I mean, like they're bad here. So we have to deal with all of that, and so I mean that goes all the way through. I've sneezed snakes out to November. It's pretty bad. You gotta watch it, especially in the places that I hunt.
Well, with the scent control thing you're talking about, with you sweating your balls off and the thermals doing what they're going to do, like, do you just forego? You said scent control is just not manageable. So at that rate, are you just putting some 40% DEET on and like keeping those things off? Or are you using any
permethrin?
Yeah.
That's what the old Sawyer permethrin. I'll run that through November. I do have I'd say I've got one of the strictest scent control regimens that you could find in the South. I wash my clothes in scent-free detergent. My whole family, like I got my wife sold on the scent-free, like hippie stuff like now. So we don't run anything with scent through our washing machine or dryer. So everything, the whole thing scent-free there. I do the scent control, scent-free showers, spray down with this, but it all goes out the window when you start sweating out all those, those Mickey Ultras and all the whiskey you had that night before and the fried rattlesnake that you had. I mean, deer knows that you're there. I mean, so and during November into December and stuff, you can get a little bit better about it, but that's when our rut hits and the deer are stupid as heck. I mean, that's when they're chasing does and things, and you don't have to be as, engaged in the scent control, but I do. I believe in it to some. I like to stack the odds in my favor as much as I can.
Yeah, I think that's what we're trying to accomplish here. Is
why not? It doesn't set me off any. I'm gonna have to take a shower anyway. Might as well take a shower with the scent-free stuff. Keep my clothes pretty scent-free. I do I've got the Ozonics. I put it in my bag. We got an ozone machine from our old high school that they use the same thing that you use, that everybody's peddling for this ozonics and everything, is an ozone machine that is in every locker room in the continental US that they turn on after you leave, and it cleans all the air and everything like that. So we got one of those from our coach, our old high school football coach, and we turn it on like we've got a house that we use as a deer camp down south, and we'll turn that thing on, and it kills all the scent in there. But yeah, you can't stay as stringent as what I would say some people do in the Midwest and up north on scent control. It's not going to work for you. You're going to sweat.
Yeah, one thing I've actually enjoyed quite a bit is the merino wool stuff, which Greg talked me into last season.
Mm-hmm.
Now I didn't get First Light. I went and bought. We got like a little local shop here. They only got 2 stores in our local region called Sherpers. So for those that are from this area, will know what that is. It's a military surplus store, but they sell like the shit they carry is pretty high end by and large. And I think the brand is like -33 or 33 below or something like that. It was expensive. It was $200 for just a top and a bottom, 100 for each. And it was a midweight, but it does not retain any scent. Now, I went to the good old Fleet Farm, aka the Man's Mall, and I bought myself a real, I just wanted a new top for, early season, a thin layer. So it's like this really, it's not cotton, it's like this really like worky out material, whatever the hell that is. And I got it on sale, so it wasn't a bunch of money, but I'm not kidding, man. After one freaking sit of wearing that stuff over my merino wool, it reeked -35. Thank you, Alex. It reeked so bad, like BO. I was like, what the fuck? I was out once, dude. It is terrible. Now, the merino wool underneath it, you could stick your whole face in there. Nothing. So if nothing else, the property of its antimicrobial, blah, blah, whatever, dude, freaking perfect. And it's breathable. So like I'm sweating balls out there. Even in a mid-weight, I'm sweating balls. And I'm getting cooled down and it's wicking away. And by the time I get almost dry. It's just such an impressive fabric. So scent control from that perspective, I am sold on that not holding any scent. Now, my nasty BO clearly passed through to the next layer, which was just, I'm like, and now that retains it. It's just gross. I'm like, how do I get that out of there? I don't even know. I do have a, what is it called? What's their brand? Scent. Fuck, Fino. Scent Bros or whatever the bag. Now I'm only,
Scent Crusher.
I'm begging them a little bit because they never freaking respond to me, even though my buddy works there and he's awesome. He's in a different division, but Scent Crusher. I got a Scent Crusher bag, and dude, it works, man. I throw my stuff in there before every hunt. I wash it, and then now I'm actually washing it because I haven't been doing that in the last couple years. I've just been using that as a washing machine, the bag itself.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's probably pretty gross. I should probably wash this stuff.
Me
Dry
too.
it out at least when I'm sweating it all up. So anyway, that merino wool, dude, is no joke. I don't know if you're rocking that. I know they have lightweight stuff,
I
but
do.
yeah,
I have it.
that's
I
quarterback,
didn't
man.
spring for the First Light either. I love First Light.
I think they're
Love
great.
their pattern. Love it.
Yeah.
I'm a banker, and I don't do bad for myself, but I am cheap. So I will go on Amazon and buy the the knockoff merino wool, as long as it says that, that's what. So I use that as my mid layers, and then I've got a lot of that polyester stuff is what you're talking about. Like the lightweight stuff is polyester, and it's gonna keep it. I wash it like I never wear the same thing. Like if I have a morning hunt and an evening hunt, I wear different clothes both times, all the way down to the underwear. Like, and I wash all that stuff. I've got a washer and dryer in my camp. I wash all of it. If I don't have that, like I don't have a washer and dryer, if I'm on a long trip or something like that, you can ask any of my friends that hunt with me. I'm anal about everything, but I bring enough clothes for every sit. Like, so every sit I have a different shade of camouflage on. So because I mean it really does. It's a big deal for me, and I want to be as scent free as possible. But yeah, love the merino wool stuff. Love what they're doing with that, and that any of that antimicrobial. I got real big into the it's not scent blocker, it's the other one. Eberhart preaches about it.
Ozonics?
No, it's
Scent
Lock. That's it.
Yeah,
I love their stuff.
got the carbon in it or something like that.
Yeah,
So
activated
there's
carbon.
layers of depth to the scent control stuff, man. Like using the scent free soap or the scent, whatever the hell brand you want to use. I think it's all not too great, but you don't want to, if nothing else, just get a scent free bar of like Dove Men or something like that. So it doesn't smell like a rose.
So you can take all the fun out of hunting going too far one way or the other on that. And just to key this up, Jesse Wright is in my, and this is a guy that I love. He's my dude. Been my guy for a while. This dude smoked a pack of Marlboro Lights, passed out at the campfire, woke up at 5 o'clock, had 30 minutes to hunt, drove to a stand where the wind's blowing directly into where the deer come out. 600 acres of pasture behind them. Marlboro Lights with a whiskey drink, drove on back roads. Don't want to say he's drinking and driving. So killed the biggest deer we've ever killed in our camp, 150 plus inch deer. At last light, it was running across the field. It came from behind him, from 600 acres of pasture, ran by him. He shot it. He said he didn't even see the deer's rack. He just said it ran like a buck. That's what he said. That's his, And so this guy is, when I say, I always say that he's the luckiest hunter I know, but he's consistently lucky. So he's definitely praying a little bit better than me or something, but no scent control regimen whatsoever, apt to smoke a Marlboro Light in the stand. So, you can be on both sides of the spectrum and still do well. I think you got to make it fun. You got to make it worth what you want to do with it. So I've waned on my scent control regimen slightly as far as that goes, because I just want it to be more fun. But yeah, you can go all day on. You can key in on one aspect. I'd rather be a jack of all trades and a master of none than be a master of one. I'd much rather have that. But yeah. So hey, another thing, how many deer tags do y'all have? How many bucks can you kill? How many does?
So if you're hunting bow and gun, you get one doe, one buck tag for each weapon, right? So if you're buying a bow or archery tag, you're getting a doe and a buck, and then you're getting a gun doe and a gun buck. And they're pretty liberal about handing out a bonus doe tag, and you sometimes can buy a couple of them. So I might be able to buy a bonus one for bow and gun. So I might be able to stack 4 does and 2 bucks if I play my cards right. Now, some folks will archery hunt through the gun season, but I say bring the boomstick and level out the playing field for these freaking animals.
I'm all about it.
And depending on where you're hunting, what county and all that stuff, and whatever the municipalities are, you might be able to get away with a shotgun. And then there's a muzzle. So I don't know anything about that because I don't muzzle load hunt. So I don't know if you get a different tag for that or not. I'm not sure. So yeah, at minimum, you're getting one of each for each season, archery and rifle.
So as soon as you buy your sportsman license here, you get 6 deer tags, $2, 4 does.
Okay.
You do the urban hunts and you have unlimited. Like, so in any of the urban areas, you can rack and stack. I mean, so those 2 deer I killed, they didn't count across against my annual limit. I mean, they actually give you $200 and pay your dues if you kill the most deer. And last year, I think a guy donated 87. So he shot 87 deer with a bow.
What?
In one of the urban hunts. I think it was 87.
That's a lot of work.
It was 37 or 87. But I mean, he may have lived in one of those urban areas and just hunted around there and just shot a deer every day. But I was just thinking, I was just blew my mind. So yeah, so we get the 6 deer tags, and then unlimited on hogs. You can hunt them daylight to dark. Or you can hunt them all 24 hours. You can hunt them in the dark. You can hunt them in the day. You can hunt them with a gun. You can hunt them with a spear. You can kill them with your truck. They don't care as long as you kill them. But then, I told you we have 3 million public acres to hunt, but it's state and federal. So you've got to. I mean, we've got a lot of like mix. There's no like overarching. These are you have to look at the regs on each WMA. You can only kill 1 buck on this WMA, and then you can't kill another one there to go against your 2 buck limit. And then on the federal lands, you have to buy a federal license to go over there. I mean, all in all, I probably spend close to $200 on license every year with everything, which I don't know if that's cheap or expensive. I know my out-of-state Nebraska hunt for turkeys is pretty expensive, but I mean, I can buy more turkey tags when I get up there. And then Texas, it was like $300 for an out-of-state tag, and it's a lot like hunting Arkansas, but a lot less public land. So that's another, I think, and again, a lot of timber company land. Are y'all hunting? Here's one question I had for you before I get on that. On y'all's WMAs or your public land, do they allow farmers to plant those? Do you have could you be hunting a soybean field or a corn field that's on the edge of your public land or anything like that?
It depends on a couple of things, and this is why I'm going to bitch at Greg for hunting. Well, he should be podcasting a little bit because he has these answers for this type of stuff. But we have a number of different types of property. So I have access to a conservancy property that I hunt. So it's privately owned, but publicly accessed, and you get to draw for it. So there might be egg fields on that were planted or what have you. There's what I would call just generic public land. That's like national forest land. There's state land, there's county land that you can hunt. That's going to be different based on any county you're in. So you're going to have to really kind of scope out the county.gov website. We have VPA land, which is voluntary public access land, and then MFL, which is managed forest law. So some of these things are actually not very well known within the last decade. And then some journalist, news company, whatever you want to call them, did a story on this stuff called MFL land, managed forest law. And the reason they did a story on it is because there's a tax break incentive that if you're a landowner and you're doing managed forest law, it means you're allowing some sort of logging or something like that to happen on your property. But in doing so, you must then allow it to be accessed for public recreation or hunting. If someone asks you, you can't turn them down necessarily. So it got brought to light in a major, major way because what some of these folks were doing is they were landlocking it, meaning it wasn't accessible without trespassing, and they were still getting the tax incentive. That's a big no-no. Those people got slapped on the wrist pretty hard. And so as a result of that story, when it broke through, I think it was the Journal Sentinel here in Milwaukee, the DNR had a huge project to bring that to light because it wasn't easily discoverable or you couldn't find it. And then eventually Onyx picked up on that stuff, and then it was highlighted there. So now this I'm going to go ask people for permission thing is went off the hook about it. But VPA land is different because you'll do a similar tax incentive program, but they do not have to ask for permission by signing up for voluntary public access. You're just saying it's good to hunt this land. I don't on their door. I can just go do it, and there'll be a sign indicating as such. So I'm probably not hitting everything. And then there's also like crop damage tags. So like farmers will be designated a certain number of tags. And if that farmer says, well, I'm not going to hunt it, but you can, and you can use my tags. I don't know if that
designate the tags. Yeah.
not or how that works, but I know some buddies that have done that kind of stuff where they just, we talk about shoot deer at OKS Hunter, shoot deer, because shooting deer will help you get better at shooting deer. And also quit bitching and just shoot deer. Like
shoot deer.
A lot of these guys really kind of cut their teeth on whacking and stacking by just doing that stuff,
I mean, I chase mature animals now, but that's only because I started deer hunting when I was 5, man. I mean, my dad literally took me out with a single shot 410, set me down, and we ran dogs back then. And he was like, the deer are going to come from here. And he left me. I'm 5 years old. I mean, like, it was different times then. I wouldn't do that with either one of my sons. But, so, I mean, I was hunting from that time. So, I mean, there were years where I killed 6 does a year. Like, I shot everything that I saw and was happy as a pup with 2 tails to do it. Mm-hmm. And we instituted the 3-point rule here in Arkansas back, it was a long time ago, but before then, if you shot a spike, man, people were like, what? You mounted every 8-point that looked like this. I mean, like, if he was like that, mounted. But so now we've got a little bit bigger class of deer, but I think you're spot on. That's why I love what you do, man. I think you do a damn good job of it. But the whole idea that to tell somebody that what they killed isn't awesome. I mean, it's awesome to get out there and just and you have to practice. You got to that's what they say. You don't marry the first one. You got to go through a few. And you got to stack some does up, man. You got to get those 6 points on the ground. You got to just learn how to kill deer, and then you can jump into I want to kill bigger deer and so on.
Yeah, a lot of these. Someone just messaged me. I don't know. We get a lot of messages these days apparently because I can't keep track of some of them. But someone just messaged me like, some of these new. I think it was Reinhardt on our social planner social channel. I can't talk. I'm tired. Which has been the running excuse for the last like 3 weeks with this baby here, baby Jude. But he was like, he had encountered. That's what he's doing. It was Reinhardt Nutto. He was at like a seminar for. I was out on a limb. I might be wrong. He's probably gonna freaking
out on a limb is they make like the sticks and they've got a
platform and stuff like that.
Yep.
And he said they were at like a seminar for it, and he's like the number of people that raised their hand for being a new hunter was like the majority, but a lot of them were like passing on bucks because they were like, oh, I only get a big buck. But it's like, bro, you haven't killed shit yet at all. No one wants to shoot something smaller because they think they're going to be ridiculed. Like, this is a fucking problem. This is why we're
an issue.
Part of our mission.
I hate it. I actually, and that's one new thing about down here. There's not. I mean, like, man, we celebrate every deer kill here. I mean, like, if a kid kills a spike, I mean, you might as well thought they killed the beast of the forest. I mean, we love it, and that's a big
deal, man, in a good way.
Yeah, because we want to keep people in it. I mean, I don't expect somebody that's never hunted before to try to keep up with me on public. And that's another thing, like I talked to you about, doing a podcast on how to set up a hunting club or something like that, because, a lot of people are trying to cut their teeth right now on public land. And I'll tell you, man, the public land that's where I go to trophy hunt. That's where I go to like hone my skills, like to say, oh, I for the longest time, my biggest ambition was to kill 100-inch deer on public land, because I killed a lot of deer on public land, but none of them were 100 inches because it's so hard. And you got all these hunters here. You got a limited time to do it, with everybody working and such. So if a guy goes out, sets him up a ground blind on a field edge and shoots him a 6-point, I'm excited for him. I do skull mounts for people. I'll skull mount it and tell him he killed a beast. I'll be like, oh, that deer is 2.5, and I'm glad you got him. So, but getting into a private lease, I'm not trying to sell it on private lease, but I grew up on that kind of thing. And I mean, it was just easier. It was easier because you got to listen to the other guys at camp. They kind of told you the rules you had to set. And then, then you would get into public land and you'd be like, okay, so I can only kill a deer with a 12-inch spread, and then you're saying that deer got 12 inches there. I don't, my 12 inch is a little different than somebody else's 12 inches. You know,
That's what she said.
That's what she said. And don't ever try to show my wife a ruler. But
I used to take her my hands on purpose.
but yeah, man, I hate it. But I'll talk about that. You know, the locals. That was one thing that I wanted to mention on here. Like here in Arkansas, like they take deer hunting seriously. I'm sure you all do too. But like I watch these Seek One guys. I love their stuff. They're killing all these big urban bucks, and they're getting permission on these properties. And everybody that has an urban property here in Little Rock, Arkansas, they have a tree stand and a deer feeder in their backyard, and they are hunting it. So if you ask for permission, they're like, hell no, man, you ain't gonna kill my deer. And I mean, I've gotten run out of public land areas where these guys are just like, look, I've hunted here my whole life. I'll die on this land hunting it. Like you pack your shit. Like you can call a game warden on it. And they'll pay the ticket. I mean, they don't even care. Like they're serious about their deer around here, man. If you shoot a deer and it goes onto somebody else's property, we don't have the law where you can go over the property line to
you gotta ask.
the deal.
And people say no. It's really weird.
But here now they've instituted that if they say no, then they have to tag the deer. They have to do the recovery and tag the deer, which is great. I've gotten a lot of no's on that before, but I've also I was a young man, and this was funny. I was 15, 16, something like that, and I shot what would have been my biggest buck ever. And I made this 30-06 sound like a fully automatic gun. I mean, I'm just sending rounds down range. I hit him like twice, bad.
Where's the shot with that? That rifle's got range. What were you shooting at?
I guess when he walked out, he was like 230. Maybe I didn't have a rangefinder back in those days. It was a long shot for me. And I'm better with a bow than a rifle any day. And of course, I had buck fever, and he was huge. You know, looking back on it, he might have been 120 inches, but. So I shoot him twice. I clearly hit him. I got blood. He runs over to the other property, jumps the fence, and there's a guy has a stand right there. He plows him. Boom. He hits the ground. So I walk up to this hunter, and he's loading him on the four-wheeler. And I said, and I'm 16. This guy's like 40. And I was like, hey, I shot that deer. He's like, yeah, you did. You hit him twice. I was like,
but you didn't kill him.
I was like, man, so, that's like the biggest deer I've ever shot at. And he's like, yeah, man, I killed him. And he drove off. I mean, he drove off with that deer. My dad went and talked to him and all this stuff. And then, like, this guy was just like, look, bro, you wounded him. I killed him. And
he was probably gonna die, you jackass.
Oh, absolutely. Clear blood trail. All I did was hop a fence. But and so that's kind of. I mean, we even had a guy in my we had an altercation.
Shot him twice.
Yeah, shot him twice. We had an altercation down in. I've got a lease down there now in the Suckles Lake Bottoms, and this is God rest his soul. A man was killed over deer. They beat him to death.
Oh my God!
Over a deer stand, over deer hunt. I mean, like it's crazy down here. And
you've sent me an invite, man. I mean, I'm gonna have to reconsider for my own safety.
Oh no, we've got everything leased up now. We've got it all. I mean, it's changed a lot since then. I mean, people are shooting bigger deer. They're letting a lot pass. There's a lot of it's changed a lot from when I was younger, and I think I don't understand why we don't have a lot of tourism when it comes to hunting deer. Now we get a ton of duck hunters. I mean, celebrity duck. I mean, we get this place is crawling with duck hunters come duck season, and big money in the duck hunting. But we've got a great whitetail deer herd here, and it's some of the funnest. I mean, it's my favorite place to hunt in the world. I don't have a lot of basis for comparison, but you come down here, you have plenty of places to hunt, huge national forest, place you can get away. It's beautiful. If you can deal with some biting insects and some high heat, a lot of humidity, it's a fun place to hunt. And we've got some good quality deer. All of your deer, if you care about score, that's all going to be on East Arkansas. That's all going to be cropland. I spend a lot of time over there trying to chase big deer, but I just like getting out there, man. I like killing deer every now and then. in, I take my boys, I go with friends, and we cut it up at deer camp, tell old war stories, play speed quarters. That's what I kind of want to get you down for is just the whole. I don't know if you've ever been part of one of those big clubs, but like we do it up big. So we're looking forward to a little cooler temperatures and getting some deer on the ground. So
Yeah, maybe you can wear like sleeve out to one of your hunts one of these days.
maybe I could what?
Wear a long sleeve or a hoodie on. If it gets
Yeah.
cold
It's
enough.
not hoodie weather till November down here.
Oak Tree Dreams, they're big duck hunters here in Wisconsin. He's asking if you get a lot of I'm not sure if I'm saying this right.
Wiggin.
And my call number
Widgeon.
like he calls Widgeon. What's that?
Widgeon. It's some form of a duck. Now I am not mad at the ducks. I have went on several awesome duck hunts. I couldn't tell you the difference between a teal,
You guys know
wood duck. Like I've called it ducks and I've done all that, but like I chase whitetail deer. Like I will set up. I love it when duck season comes in on the White River Refuge because they herd deer better than anybody else. They'll be popping off those shotguns around those sloughs and everything, and it'll push all those big deer right at me, and I love it. Love it. So I love the duck hunters, but I just don't hate the ducks, man. I don't chase them. It's big money down here too. I mean, they spend a lot. I mean, by the time you got your boat, your shotgun, your camo, your lease, and then get all there, it's man, y'all can have them ducks. Y'all can keep them.
That's great.
It's not.
Dude.
I mean, like I ain't never had duck tacos. I ain't never. I've had some good duck, but
Dudes duck hunting. They like bring out their griddle. They're making flapjacks and pancakes and egg and bacon. I'm like,
drinking
okay, well, I'm not
whiskey,
bored with some of that
talking.
because with deer, it's a stealthy man's game. You send control, quiet. Everything's
Yeah.
very ninja. Duck hunting, you're like whack 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 whack. You're just as loud as the ducks until they come by. Then you gotta get down
duck hunting here. You're on a 3-day bender. You're drinking in the duck blind. You've got a heater in there. I remember I went on a duck hunt. It was like my first like legit duck hunt, other than like pond shooting ducks where I come from. We get out there and like we're walking across this field and it's like chest high water, and we're walking towards this island. I think it's an island, and we get in there, and this guy like pulls this hatchback, and it's like a trailer that they sunk in the water. And it's got like this like flip up thing. They got a heater. They got a stove in there. Like they're cooking breakfast.
deer blind
like,
in the water, submersed.
I'm like, man, this is legit. And I mean, I shot every shell I brought. I brought 3 boxes of shells. I probably shot every single one of them. I may have killed 3 ducks. And so I don't. It's kind of crazy to be an Arkansas boy and born and bred here, and I don't chase them. But it just my wife. I can't pick up another hobby. I chase deer way too hard. But yeah,
I was just gonna say, Oak Tree Dreams. You guys got to link up with Pulling Feathers out in Wyoming. They're big bird hunters. They got a podcast. Y'all might want to guest on their show. Levi Carey's our buddy over there. He's invited us out to Wyoming to do some elk hunting and mule deer hunting and whitetail hunting out there. You got an invitation down to Arkansas to kill hogs and whitetails and whatever the fuck else we want to shoot. Probably some snakes, not legally, of course, but
only if your life's in danger.
Yeah, I had someone, a listener, invite me to go on a mule deer hunt. I don't remember if it was Wyoming or Colorado or where he was going now, but it was like right before our baby was due, and I was like, "Dude, I can't do that." He's like, "Are you kidding me?" I'm like, "No, I'm not kidding you at all. I can't go. My wife will divorce me. It will not happen."
Oh man, I've never been as close to divorce as during deer season and such. I mean, because I really do get a little crazy about it. But
it's rough. It's getting worse or better. I don't know how you want to like quantify it, but my wife has come to expect it, but it doesn't make it any easier. And now that we got 3 kids, she's like, her friend's like, "Your husband's really going to go hunting after you just had a baby?" She's like, "Oh yeah, this is deer season. You don't get it." And it's such a heritage here in the state that like, I think at least he's got a good support group or something, but I can't help it, man. I don't know how to articulate what the hell is happening that takes me over this time of year, but it's all I can think about. Everything comes to my mouth. She's like, "Is it about deer?" I'm like, "What the fuck else am I going to talk about right now?" Of course it's about deer.
If I go to a party and there's nobody there that's talking about deer, Like my wife looks at me and she's like, "Okay, we'll leave." I'm like, I can't deal with it. Arkansas. I mean, so it's such a really they do the deer widows. Like every bar like books like male strippers this
Oh,
time of
dude,
year,
that's how it is
and
here.
and
They
like
call
so
what?
the Chippendales are at the honky tonks all over the place down here during deer season. But the funny thing is, it's like it's full of just dudes still wearing their camouflage that are going because they think girls are going to be there. So it's like a bunch of dudes at the Chippendales that wearing Sitka camouflage. But yeah, it's
Something's wrong with this scene.
funny. No, it's I've seen it a million times because I was
All the
one of the
bros
idiots.
go out and like, oh hey, what's up? It's like, well, no, dude, I'm not into you. Like, my real man is actually out hunting, so I'm good.
Oh yeah, the deer widow stuff. But yeah, my wife, she said she would never marry a hunter, and she did.
Yeah.
But she was like, "Well, you weren't as big into hunting then." I was like, "I was broke, broke when you met me. I couldn't get into it." But
I'm going all the time. Yeah,
yeah,
I don't even think we're at where I'm gonna go with all this stuff based on all the stuff I'm trying to build here and all these invitations I got to make good on. So it's like, well, in the coming years, I plan on traveling.
well,
Even
hey,
in a
come
corner
down.
that year. So
You can kill some hog. And I'll check with I'll call my warden buddy. I don't think that you have to have any kind of crazy tags to hunt hogs here. I think they'll willingly let you do it, but I'll check that, get that all lined out, and again, you'll have
I
a
think you
place
get a
to
small
stay.
game
And
license here, but you can buy that whenever and it's cheap. So it's like
yeah,
whatever.
yeah, our
Mhm.
over the counter tags are they're well within. And then you come down. I'll hook you up with one of my big duck hunting buddies. We'll run the gamut, man. You'll kill a hog, a deer, shoot some ducks, drink a whole bunch of beer, and tell some war stories.
It's good stuff. Well, hey, I'm gonna end the live broadcast, and for the folks that were jumping in the comments, thank you. The call line dropped off. I didn't have a chance to call back into it to open it back up, so I apologize. I think I owe the few calls I took in the month of September some free stuff, so I got those cataloged. I'll get on that for next week when Greg and Derek are back in the show. And like, guys and gals, don't forget to call into the show so you can win some swag. We got some new stuff dropping. We just ordered our my tag my hunt stickers, but we are running limited runs on them because we don't have any money, for the record. But we're doing Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania. Michigan and Pennsylvania are the two most commented states when we asked everyone to comment where they're hunting at. So that's what we're going to start with. And if they sell, if you guys from Michigan and Pennsylvania buy these things, we'll be able to fund the next round of getting a couple more states and trying to do one for every state if we can. So that's that. Otherwise, we got new camo hats just hit the store this last week. Giant. Well, this is a country. It's a giant small antler. It's our little antler, but it's like really large print format on the camo hat. So if you need a camo hat that, I think the intention there when we were thinking about it is, well, it's camouflage. So you can use it in the woods because this ain't. And the blaze orange antler is pretty large. So if you drop it, you could probably find it. So that's kind of
It's good thinking.
yeah, good thinking. I don't know the design. The designer in me is like, I don't like the way that it looks from a design standpoint aesthetically, but it's got a lot of function. So
There you go.
yeah, here we are bashing my own freaking product, my own damn idea.
I think it's a great hat, man. It's a great hat.
All right, well, good. Anyway, I'll end the live broadcast. Jarrod, I'll hang out with you for a minute here. Everyone that tuned in, this will be live podcast land tonight, and we'll talk to you guys soon.
Y'all come hunt Arkansas.
Hell yeah, sweat your asses off down there too.
There you go.